What's up, everybody? It's some of this, some of that podcast. What's this, bro? This is what episode what?
7.
Yes, episode 7. So we got a good show coming out today. We told y'all we got some guests lined up for y'all, and we're gonna be talking about some of this and some of that. So today we're talking about church folks, Black church folks specifically. We Black, so and we all grew up in Black church. So we got a couple of my good friends on the line. That's Pastor Jason Shepherd, and there's Minister Roger Sanders. I've been knowing both of them for a very, very, very long time. So I am going to give them just a couple minutes to introduce themselves, say whatever they want to say. I'll start with Roger first, just to give them a little background, say hi to the folks.
For sure. And actually, I was going to say, hey, I'm going to, give it to Pastor, but I'll take the lead. It's all good. I'm Minister Roger Sanders of Hope Tabernacle Community Church. I've been in the ministry now since December of 2010, actually getting ordained in April of 15. So this year made 6 years for me. Actually been an ordained minister. I'm a father of 2. But like Father Abraham, I got many children.
Yes, you do.
That consider me to be dad. And man, it's definitely a blessing to be in the position that I'm in, not only being, a leader in the church, but also a leader among all of those that are connected with me, especially the kids, seeing especially that I am a youth pastor. Being able to be connected with them and, hopefully the teachings and the lessons that I give to them and that I inspire them to be great, not only in the church itself, but also just in this world. They got so many outside influences. So I just try and be that positive influence for them as much as I can, just trying to show them and not just tell them. I think that a lot of us growing up, especially those of us that are on the line now, we were told a lot of things, but maybe not always shown the same fashion or whatever. So they say, you got to walk what you talk. So I just try and do that on an everyday basis, and hopefully that will help keep them on the right track. And even if they fall away, as I did at one point in my life, be able to get back up and remember what I was taught and get back in line. So that's my spiel.
All right, thanks. All right, Pastor Jason.
What's up, everybody? First of all, thank you for having me. Honored to be here. Tease and Coach Mo, thank y'all for having me. I go by the name of Pastor Jay. My friends call me Jay Shep. I am originally born and raised in Chicago. Now live in Inglewood, California, which is right outside of Los Angeles. And honored to just be of service in many capacities. And one of the ways that God has just opened up my area of service now is by launching a church online called Illuminate Church. Like Minister Sanders, I got my original ordination in minister's license in 2010, officially ordained in 2017, but didn't know where that was going to place because my background has always been music. And, so God has kind of allowed for me to utilize music, education, and ministry and motivation to all kind of converge now to this point. I am also a full-time music teacher out here as well. I'm also a full-time husband and a full-time dad, full-time friend. Just grateful for this opportunity to talk about church folks, which is something that we've done our whole lives already.
Yeah. And the reason, just so everybody know that's listening, when me and Coach, the beginning of when we started out, we thought about a lot of different topics we wanted to discuss over these next, few months. And religion is something, that comes up a lot just amongst even us, our friends. It's a conversation that it can be uncomfortable, and it can get heated sometimes. But I thought it was good for us as young people, and why I brought you guys in, because even though we all have like a strong traditional background from our upbringing, not that we've moved away from it, but just how we see things a little bit different than our parents viewed the church. And so I just wanted the other people and our listeners to see that even though you could have had a traditional background, that foundation is what keeps us. But at the same time, we all still learning and growing. Everything that we taught maybe in the when we was kids, maybe it wasn't always the right thing, but again, that foundation is still there. So we'll kick it off with just talking about especially since COVID, a lot of people stopped going to church, right? And we just got back in the building last week. But I've heard the conversation, since people were used to not being in church and then being online, like it was just, I've heard people flat out say, well, it's not really necessary. Like church legit is not necessary anymore, for various reasons, mostly because a lot of people, they frown at the traditional, how we all grew up, because the church hurt that they have. So when y'all hear those type of things about church not being necessary, or what's your response to that? Because I know, like Jason, you have a non-traditional church even right now, but just in general, either one y'all can start off. When you hear that, what's your response to that?
So my first response to that is that I tend to agree with the initial statement, but I will put a caveat to that. People aren't necessarily saying church in and of itself isn't necessary. Mm-hmm. They're saying the monopolization of their time is not necessary, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you think about how we grew up, more so in a Black traditional home, where you go to church on Sunday, you're going to be a Sunday school, typical, whether you Kojic, Apostolic, Baptist, it all, we may not all preach quote unquote the same thing, but you're gonna be in Sunday school by 9 o'clock. Church gonna start at 11, maybe, or 12, and you won't be out till about 2 or 3 sometimes, right?
With a small break till you go back in the evening.
Right. Or you go to a visiting church. So now let's break down what has happened on that Sunday. You missed the entire Bears game, right?
True that.
Right.
And I'm not even trying to be. I'm just being. I'm taking you through our child. I'm taking you through my childhood, adolescence. Everybody knew all the stuff. So you getting home on a Sunday evening around. Now I grew up Kojic, so we had church on Sunday night.
No, church.
We go
church.
Like church started at 7 o'clock on Sunday night. That's what time it started. So we getting back home after 10 o'clock. So we lucky to catch the 10 o'clock news, to catch the recap of what happened during the day, right? So then we got to get ready to go to school the next day. So then you think about your peers. I grew up in Homewood, which is primarily predominantly white. Some Black, but if I think about like my white peers, they Sundays was always free. They had breakfast every Sunday. They was going to the Bears game or the Cubs game. They was playing baseball. They had all these other activities that they had going on that was fun. And our whole life and culture was cemented around church. Now, the crazy thing is, when we moved to LA in 2016, we did not really find a church that we connected to immediately. Now, we would go to church, but there would be some Sundays, if I didn't have to play somewhere, like let's go to Newport Beach, and then I wouldn't even feel a bit guilty, because we had already watched 5 sermons on YouTube the day before. You know what I'm saying? I had already kind of done my spiritual work. I'd already kind of felt like, well, I've watched more sermons this week than I've gotten more out of watching Miles Monroe, T.D. Jakes, and Joel Osteen, or whoever I'm watching in that time from binge watching. I'm so fed. Now let me go hang out with my family. And I didn't feel like me going to this church that I didn't really like. I didn't know the people. I couldn't curate my experience of what I needed. So basically what people are saying is, I'm going to a service where I don't know what they're going to preach about today, right? Or I know what they're going to preach about because pastor going to recycle the same message every year after year. And so you're basically saying, well, I'd rather find what I'm looking for and get what I need and then get built up. And then on Sunday, I'm gonna find my way to chill.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of how I've seen it over this time. So I understand it, but then I do have, and I want Pastor Roger to speak, because there is another side to it that I do have that doesn't quite necessarily agree with the church not being necessary.
Yeah, and just to Pastor Jason's points, just growing up, man, being in church all day, that's what our life, centered around the church. And then even past Sunday, right? Depending on what church you went to, you had a Bible study that, you'd be there probably 2 hours or whatever. You got choir rehearsal, you got like youth church or youth class and whatnot. And then when I was at this one church that I was a member of for a few years, man, we would be in church literally like 5 days a week, because we would have a deacons meeting, we would have a brotherhood meeting. Now, and I'm thinking like, man, why couldn't both of these meetings be in the same? It's the same people here, but and the thing about it, just adding on to what Pastor Jason was saying, was that people, the church folk then and still now, they want to be around a lot of people that they know, that's part of it, and yeah, there's going to be those, outliers that, hey, everybody doesn't know everybody and so forth, or you have new folks coming in, but they want to be there. But then now you got the folks that are saying, oh, well, why is, going to church into a building necessary? And one thing that stands out the most to me is the fellowship part.
Right.
Yes, it's like, I can get fed off of reading on my own. I can get fed off of watching a sermon online. I can get fed off of watching a sermon on TV. But the fellowship, I'm missing that part. And one thing that we're taught in the Bible and whatnot, and growing up, is that, hey, you are not supposed to forsake the fellowship. It's very important, because we're supposed to, as Christians, feed off of each other. That's why, even though as a kid, I'm like, why are we having testimony service and the same people getting up telling the same stories? I heard that, a month ago or whatever, but it's like that testimony that they're giving, they're saying, hey, this is what God has done for me. And maybe that time, that specific day, it's somebody that's never heard that, testimony. And it actually helps them because of what they're going through or whatever. Man, you know what? That was right on time. I needed to hear that part. But it's like the fellowship, though, people are getting away from the fellowship. And the thing about the body of Christ is, hey, once we actually say, hey, yes, I'm a Christian, I'm a follow Christ, we are pretty much inducted into a family, as a whole, not just the physical church or that specific edifice where we go to fellowship, but the body of Christ. We're brought into it. And how can one part of the body move without the other part? We got to feed off of each other, and I believe that that's part of the reason that, we see a lot of decline in the church today, because people, they're selfish, it's a lot of self-love that, and we know that, hey, it's a lot of that when you look at social media and stuff, like everybody, self-love, I love myself. But we're taught that, hey, love God and then love others as yourself.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and people are missing that point.
Right.
You know, they're so concerned about just loving themselves, taking care of themselves. What about those around you as well?
Right. Right. And just to add to what you guys were saying, I think I agree. And just even I can talk about my personal experience, right? So from going from the church that I grew up in to going to my dad's church, it was night and day, right? Because we didn't have like evening service. It was a smaller church, so we didn't have church all day. We probably would have like white church, to be honest, like, because you get out, we have Sunday school, we have Sunday worship, and that's about 2 hours for both of them, and we're done, you know.
Right.
But I think that a lot of people too, the ones that did grow up in church, and not even so much being selfish, but like I said, I definitely agree with that. But I think that some people just feel like all that activity is not necessary. Like, it's really activities. Like, it's not true worship. You know, like, you're not really worshiping God. It's a whole bunch of activities. And not saying that that's for everybody, but I think that's some of the things that we do in service. It's just repetitive. It's religious. It's a repetitive things that now it's a generation that feels like, you know, well, we're beyond that. Like, we're more for the spiritual aspect. And so they don't want to focus on the activities, so to speak, that you do in church. They want to focus on the spiritual, you know, ness, quote unquote, of aspect of church. So I think a lot of people, go ahead.
If I can jump in there too, because you're saying some really good stuff with a lot of meat on this bone, because I think one thing I try to do is, when I hear what people are saying, I try to, sometimes they're not necessarily saying, they're not really expressing the fullness of what they're really trying to say. So really and truly, what a lot of people are searching for is purpose. Right. So they're like, what's the purpose of me doing such and such? But if you give them even a greater task that's purposeful. So let's say, hey, the church is going to be, one thing we did was we did a backpack giveaway. We did a backpack and shoe drive. Right. And hey, could you give to this because this is the purpose for it? Or I've seen a lot of churches actually show up and feed people, where people like, they're like, cool, like I can get up and do something, right? So I think the idea of going to church, getting dressed up, putting the hat on, wearing the St. John's, wearing a suit, some wingtips, Stacey Adams, whatever, like that just became a thing where it was more pageantry. And so people are like, well, what's the purpose of doing that when there's more stuff that we can actually do that's tangible?
Right.
So some of the conversations I've seen and some of the things I've seen applied now, where people are like, yo, I can actually do something that I see is going to impact somebody today, not in the sweet by and by.
Right.
Like, people trying to get out of that sweet by and by. And it's like, well, what can I do today? I can't worry about heaven. That's later. How can I see what's happening on earth? Right. And so I think too, like, there's some people who that's their spiritual tension is like, you know, there are a lot of people who want to know about the afterlife, but they're trying to figure out, how can I, like, well, what does best life actually mean? Right. Is this my best life, coming here every week to St. John's or St. Luke or Mount Sinai or whatever? You know, no shade to any of those churches.
Right,
They're all great churches, but is my best life being lived through these churches? And by you saying, I gotta be here, you know?
Yeah. And I think too, just to hit on to something that Roger said, just about the selfishness, and not even just like to talk down about people, but I think we are in just in general, we're in a self-absorbed, society where, thinking about God and thinking about others, that's just, that's not it's not a priority for most people, and so that narrative of self, I mean, that's the selfie movement. I mean, my sister's telling me I'm putting the selfies, but I don't think so. But but I mean,
hey, I don't know, I don't know.
Real.
But I mean, I know, like, that's just people look at Jason. People it's a self-absorbed, it's a self-absorbed time. So I mean, with that being said, there's another aspect that people talk about too, is just that church hurt. And like back in the day, we've all seen it. If a girl got pregnant, she had to get in front of the church and and tell all her business, and just that type of thing where it was normalized. But when we look back, we don't know, was that really the best thing to do? And it put like a gap for some people. Just it kind of paused their spiritual journey, because they're like, after a while, once a lot of them had that baby, they're like, you know what, I'm good. I'm good on this, and even not just the baby aspect, but other things like people like Roger, I don't know who was speaking about it, about the testimony period. It can become like a show, like people want to outdo each other in that. And just so those different things that a lot of people have dealt with in, with the church. And then, with putting a slash on that, when you see the ministers on TV that people think it's just a money grab, right? And so people attach to that, and they, they're like, that's why I don't go to church. So they bring up their past situations like it used to be, and then they talk about the preachers on TV. So what's your response to that when they say that's why I don't go to church no more?
Take it, Roger.
All right, for sure. So it's tough, right? Because not only do we see the things like a lot of I'm not going to say a lot, but some of the more prominent pastors have been caught in scandals and stuff like that. And then even in our own experiences, if you were like me, being a part of different groups in the church, like the finance department and stuff, you see the finances coming in, and then you see where they're being allocated to. And then it's like, all right, so is this what, church is really about? Is it just about money? Is it just about, as you said, like putting people on Front Street? And yes, those things do drive people away, and those things keep people away. It's unfortunate that specific pastor or that specific leader or church or whatever would actually, do those type of things to discourage people. Yes, we should be discouraging, non-marital sex and babies before, out of wedlock and all of that type of stuff. But at the same time, what are they doing to try and help that individual? Right. That girl that had this baby, out of wedlock, as we, always have termed it, and the boy, whatever. Like, what are we actually, what has the church, or what did the church actually do to try and, counsel them, talk to them, like, hey, yes, okay, this should not have happened. Okay, but it has happened. So now, how do you grow from this situation? How can you and your story help somebody else? Right. And to actually try and appease the church, I believe, because of tradition, right? A lot of it has to do with tradition, because this is what that pastor saw happening when he was young and growing up, or because of that specific sector of the church or religion or whatever. This is how we have to do it. Because of that, you were driving people away, but it's a matter of, trying to draw people closer, saying, hey, yes, I got you. And to bring, people, especially our age group, because I feel like our age group is the group that really was impacted by a lot of this, and have gone to now maybe not want to be in involved in church, to bring them back. It's like, hey, listen, maybe it's because of, what you've seen and how it was a displeasure to you. That should be your way to come back into the church and help to change that. Hey, bring a new program. As Pastor Jason spoke about, people finding purpose in the church. Hey, maybe the church that you're attending, maybe they don't have a food drive, or maybe that's something that you can come and say, hey, have you thought about this? Can we get, a ministry together as everybody at church wants to do? They want to create a ministry. Can we create an outreach ministry, or can we create, a youth ministry or so forth? Because we were so impacted by some of the negative things that we did see, we tend to just harbor on that and not let it go. And a lot of times we're missing out on opportunities to be able to help somebody else that may fall into that same situation. If everyone, every generation goes through that same type of, I don't even know the word to use without offending anyone, but if we all continue to go through the same type of situations and whatnot, when will the church, the body of Christ, actually come together as one again, or continue to grow? When will that church that you grew up in ever be able to prosper or be, uplifting or have this outreach to the community or to young folks? Because we know that it's not just our group now, it's the generation behind us and the one that's coming up that are really not in the church, so we have to, we have to start finding ways to actually, bring something to the church, not just always looking for something to get out of it, because yes, we, should be searching to be fed and so forth. And as Pastor Jason said, to find that purpose, but also what can we bring to the church as well?
And I think too, Roger, like when you talk about that generation, it's a trickle down effect, because I think we're the last generation between us, us four, we're all in the same age group. We're probably the last generation that was made to go to church, like where there wasn't really an option. Going to church on Sunday, you go on Wednesday. If my daddy drives the bus, I'm just gonna be there till he done driving the bus. And I think, so I think we were the last generation that was like,
Coach Mo just had a flashback.
Yeah. Well, I think we were the last generation that was made to go, and I think it's the trickle down effect of why so many of the younger ones underneath us, don't come, because we stopped. I mean, our generation is pretty much like, we were done. We're a lot of our generation, kind of sit away from the church for various reasons we were talking about. So, you can go back, Jason, just to piggyback on whatever we were talking about before, and Mo, whenever you want to jump in.
I love this topic. I love this because I have views that are considered to be way out there or somewhat controversial. First of all, the elephant in the room is, let's talk about the money part, right? And so to be brutally honest, what most pastors really do know, and they would never really openly admit, is that the business of the church is actually one of the greatest safeguards for tax liability. It is the greatest safeguard for tax liability, right?
Yeah.
It really is. Now, that's the brute, honest truth. Now, what can be done with that is everything can be done with that, right? So the issue to me is that people are saying, yo, this only benefits you, right? But how can we actually take a church, and as Roger was talking, like the one word that came to my mind is incubate. How do we incubate new ideas and businesses? What can we actually grow out of this, right? And how can this church not be about the pastor? Now, the pastor sets vision. We set vision, but so even though we know Jeff Bezos is the CEO of Amazon, Amazon is not about Jeff Bezos. I don't think about Jeff Bezos when my packages come to my door.
Right.
Right. The drivers come in, Amazon is represented in such a way where the brand it does what it does. We know Jeff Bezos is the richest man in the world, but I never think about Jeff Bezos when his package comes to the door. However, when I think about such and such church, I always think about that pastor. I don't think about what the ministry actually does. What is the ministry? Now, what I will say is, when I lived in Houston and I attended Lakewood Church under Pastor Joel Osteen, I actually saw Lakewood as its own entity. And I looked at Pastor Joel totally different being in his church.
Okay.
Where some people would say, oh, Joel Osteen don't do nothing. No, that's not true. Lakewood Church is its own separate entity. I've gotten to real heated discussions with people. Well, Joel Osteen didn't let nobody in his church when the hurricane came. Well, first of all, that's not true. Second of all, that's not even really his decision to make. Right? It's the church. He may be the pastor of the church, but there's more. So here's what happens under these governances. The church has to safeguard its pastor from certain things, because if the pastor has total control, then the church is going to be in jeopardy. So what a lot of these churches actually do is smart. The church is its own brand and the pastor is its own brand. Now, people don't like the B word when it comes to church. Well, let's face it. We all have a personal brand. All four of us, whatever we post on social media, like I know Latisse is good for some of the funniest, most pettiest posts. But I'm a laugh. That's what I do. That's my call. I know Latisse. Listen, and this is a guy, I don't even think I told her this. My nephew passed last year, right? 7 years old, tragic. I would see her post and stop thinking about my nephew for about 5 minutes, because that's her personal brand. That's a part of her ministry. Now, can churches actually really get into a position where we really say, hey, we want to help people build and find their purpose? It might not necessarily be under the umbrella of the church, but can I come to this church and know, man, Pastor Jay gonna say something that I need that's gonna help me get to this next level. Pastor Roger gonna say something, and it's not about Pastor Roger, right? Right. So it don't matter if the pastor drives a Tesla, because we know whatever information is coming out of here, I'll be able to drive something greater than a Tesla, right? My encouragement for pastors is to stop trying to be a hero and be a guide. Let your people be the heroes. Hypothetically, if all three of y'all became a member of Illuminate Church, my goal is to see y'all do way better than me. I will let us see y'all expand your business, see your families do better, get healed, and not about me. Right. So me as a guide, helping y'all become a hero, what does that do for the guide, actually? It means that what I have is very valuable. Right. So I think pastors have taken their value and make it about me, when it's really about you. Right. Pastor Joel always makes it about everybody else. He never makes it about himself. And that's why people stay hating on him. People don't like him. That's why Lakewood Church can bring. So I had a discussion with somebody. They said, well, there should be nobody at Lakewood Church that's homeless. And I'm like, well, I said, that's impossible. Eradicating homelessness is an impossibility. How do you eradicate homelessness? Right. And that's not for one person to do. And I had to let this person know. I said, listen, Pastor Joel's done very well for himself. I said, but I got a secret for you. I said, he's not nearly the wealthiest person at Lakewood Church. Yeah. I said, let me put you up on game. Yeah. he ain't nearly like, I wouldn't even
if people
venture
don't
to
know
say,
that part, Jason, even with the local churches, people see the pastor and
yep,
like you said, that's the first person, but
yep,
because we all be behind the scenes, we know most of the time the pastors don't make what y'all think they make. A lot of stuff is donated, a lot of stuff is given to them, and as much as they get, I can guarantee you, I know firsthand from almost all the pastors I know, they didn't give out that much more, but that's not what people see. They just see the basket, it's the ones that's on Hollywood Wives and all that stuff, and they think
right,
that's the standard for pastors, and it's not.
Or they see that nice car,
right?
They see that nice watch, they see that nice suit, and they automatically think that, oh, these folks dumb, they're giving their money to the pastor.
Right.
And a lot of times, like you said, the pastor really ain't making nothing.
Right.
At all.
And psychologically, think about this, Coach Mo. Think about this. Are you gonna listen to somebody who got on track, like who not dressed well? I'm not saying that you should be respect the person, but I'm saying sometimes somebody, if you don't look the part, I'm be like, why am I listening to you? Like, what are you trying to tell me? Right. So we're stuck in a pickle. If we went to our jobs and the CEO of the company looked super raggedy, you know what I'm saying? We'll be like, yo, I don't know if I can trust this. I'm not saying t-shirt and sneakers, because you can wear a t-shirt, sneakers, and jeans and be like, oh, okay, like I know what he on, cool.
Right.
But if it's like, yo, I don't really know, like, fam, like he driving a car and the muffler falling off. It's like, yo, you don't really care about your identity. I don't want to be around a pastor who don't care about how he look.
Right.
That to me, like, that's just like, that's self-sabotage. Because one thing that I do know too is that as much as people don't want to admit it, there's a high degree of aspiration that we need, especially in our communities, especially with men, right?
Yeah.
If men do not have the proper thing to aspire to, they will aspire to the thing that all y'all want to do is look and dress like the rappers. All y'all want to, but it's like, well, how should they aspire? How do you want them to be? How do you want them to dress? How do you want them to talk? How do you want them to walk? And so we have all these opinions about, well, the pastor shouldn't drive this. And it's like, well, are you satisfied if he drives a 1999 Nissan Sentra? That makes you feel better if he drives that. I don't want my pastor driving a car that don't look right. That's me.
Right.
Me personally. And it's not that I'm judging him. It's like, nah, man, we need to make sure you taken care of. Like when we get to a point where we have a youth pastor, I want to make sure, like, you need insurance. Your family you got a family.
Right.
Like, it's things like that. That's like the things that young ministers go through, young pastors, even down to musicians. Like, I've seen too many things. I've gone through too many scenarios just as a man, just having pride, just like, let me go ahead and just use my college education to go out and just go and do what I need to do for my family. And not even worry about this other part. Like, pastors will psychologically just be like, well, I just don't want nobody saying nothing about me. And if they do, like, I just got to take it, with me being a new pastor, I'm just now really learning that. And, I'm more like, the Lord got to help me. I'm kind of more the like gloves off kind of guy. Like,
really,
Leticia,
I never knew that.
See, I'm a little bit more gloves off, and I'm a little bit more like, I like to get to like, hey, let's get to really what's the real issue that you have. But I really think, just getting back to my original point, that if churches actually exercise the business portion of it to the extent where everybody can like prosper? Like how does the church set up housing? How does the church set up restaurants? How does the church set up clothing lines and fashion? Like we see more of them doing it. Like it's a church in Houston called Hope City, and they make more money selling merch than anything. Like they merch is off the chain, and they merch like I don't know how much they make, but they could be making over a couple $1 million a year just off the merch they sell. So even churches like being smarter about like how they do that. Like they did, like a lot of the white churches do small groups, and they'll do small groups where it'll be like, 5 to 10 people in a group, and they'll talk about anything from investments to cooking to fitness. Like this is how we get smaller cells to ensure that the body stays healthy. And Pastor Rick Warren, the author of the book Purpose Driven Life, I had the opportunity to go to a couple of his conferences, his churches here in Southern California. He said, like, what he's most proud of, he says his weekend services, I believe, they have about 18 to 20,000 people that come physically when it was physical. But he said he's even more proud that 100,000 people are in small groups that don't even come to the physical. I was like, how y'all got 100,000? Like, it blew my mind. He was like, they go over, like, we give them the full outline of what was preached and they go over it. Now I'm sure it's random stuff that go on in the small groups. It's not perfect. Like, I'm not in this like, oh, white is right thing. But what I'm saying is it's people playing this at such a level where they've gotten out of this whole like, small, basic, like we come together and we just got to do it this way.
Right.
Like they've gone to like figuring out like what's going to work for people's lives.
Right.
And it's curating that experience for your life. So
right. Well, since you mentioned some white pastors, and that was one thing I know I want to talk about is and everybody that know me, y'all know my train of thought. So, but you already know,
Sister Soldier.
But that is a thing that when we're speaking about church, and nothing against white pastors at all, it's the idea, of just white Jesus. And like you said, not saying white is right. And we in a whole generation of, of wokeness. This is another aspect of why we don't go to church. Is because they believe that, how we were taught, the Western point of Christianity, and how that affected people in slavery and how that kept them bonded in bondage for so long. It's just like I'd be doggone if I'm following somebody. I'm not gonna do that. That worked for grandma, but I ain't on that. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's a really it's a serious thing, and for me, I'm like Jason, I'm a hands off, I'm a gloves off person, but I'm gloves also in a thing of, I don't argue with religion with people. So because I'm too far in to do that, and they usually too far in their thought process. So I'm not saying that's the right approach, but I just, I'm not gonna argue with them about that. That's your thing. So with the wokeness that we see, is it worth the argument, or how do y'all deal with that?
I think it's very much worth the conversation. Arguments can be tricky, but I think sometimes it leads to really tough conversations and asking like questions that are so basic. Like, okay, basic questions starting with Noah, right? Mm-hmm. You start asking questions about Noah's 3 sons. Mm-hmm. And Ham, Shem, and Japheth, right? Bible starts breaking it down around Genesis, the 10th chapter. and who Ham was, right? Progenitor. They say Ham was a progenitor of the Africans, right? Then you go to Shem, and it said Shem was a progenitor of the Hebrew. But it's Ham was not the progenitor of the Negroes, right? So things like that. So we've been going, well, who are the Negroes, right? So you start going, digging under Shem, and then you figure out who Japheth was, right? And then Japheth had a grandson named Ashkenaz, and you said, well, who is Ashkenaz? Which is where they get the name Ashkenazi Jew, which is actually German Jew, which actually came from Caucasoid Mountains. Like, you start like breaking down, like the information is out there. Like, I didn't really say anything that you can't really study for yourself and research, right? So these are things that people will be coming into your church and they will know this basic information. So you can't sit here. Well, I can't say it's basic. To some people, it's basic information. So this idea of trying to teach about, you know, Moses, right? And Moses being able to be in Egypt and hide, and Moses being a Hebrew, how can Moses hide among, how can Moses be a Hebrew and be with Egyptians and be confused with being Egyptian? Aren't he, you know, like, what is he? What color were these people? Right? So the question is, who in the Bible was not Black? More
That's
so,
come on now.
That becomes more who didn't look like us. So now it becomes more of a study of like, okay, it's not just about skin tones. Now it's about, well, like ethnicity and location and like, well, who is who? Like, so we know that all people with dark skin ain't the same.
Right.
But they got dark skin. So we got to stop like with this whole brainwashing that we've come with, like even the pictures, like, so what has really like destroyed several generations of churchgoers in their thinking of who Jesus was with the fans, right? The Baptist hot fans with this stringy haired man with blue eyes, and on the other side was Dr. King.
Oh yeah.
So you're only thinking that Jesus was this guy when it come to find out he was a man named Caesar Borgia, who was actually painted by Leonardo da Vinci. Caesar Borgia, his father was a pope, and Leonardo da Vinci, come to find out, was his gay lover, right? This man Caesar Borgia actually had an affair with his sister Lucretia, and had an affair with his brother's wife, and had his brother killed. So this man who we say is Jesus was a bisexual murderer, incestual man.
Right.
And we say this is Jesus, the man without flaw.
Right.
So you painted a man who was debaucherous and said this was Jesus. We've been looking at this man as he was Jesus, but this is like the worst, one of the worst men who ever walked the face of the earth. Like, you talk about canceling somebody, cancel the man that was on that picture.
Right. Yeah.
So like when it comes to like those things, and I've had like really, y'all should be a fly on the wall with some of the conversations I've had with some of my white peers who are pastors. When I just ask them basic questions and their face turns red, and then they start talking about the Middle East, and I go, well, there's no such thing. The Middle East was named that in the 1940s.
Right.
I mean, come on, bro. Like, what are we saying?
Right.
So I think our churches, although, so one thing I feel that God has done, I'm gonna be real. God's spirit breathed upon the Black church like never before in the 1900s. In this, like there was a movement of the Holy Spirit in Church of God in Christ, Baptist, Apostolic, AME. There was a move of the Holy Spirit. Even though some people didn't even though like there would be like Baptist people believe, I don't believe in the Holy Ghost. You know, it was people splitting from Baptist, turning Pentecostal. It was a movement of the Holy Spirit in this place. And God had grace on us and breathed on us when we didn't even really know or understand history in like who sanctioned scriptures to be written in the 1600s. Like they're like, so I love what T said earlier. Like my belief is solid. What I believe that Jesus was born and died for the remission of my sins, and he's coming back. All the other stuff, I have no idea.
Right.
You know, I believe that Jesus looked like me. That's all I really think I know.
Right.
Everything else, y'all can keep that. Some of the stuff y'all added is getting kept out. We don't talk about the Apocrypha. There's so many things that we don't talk about and don't really know how to dissect. And that I feel that God has allowed for us to not even really know. Like when he says my ways are not my ways, right? My thoughts are not your thoughts. So it's like, if the Lord's like, if we're supposed to think like him, have the mind of Christ, we can't even think like him. So those kinds of things confounds, okay, Lord, how do I surrender then? You know, even when I want to go in and be like, yo, this is really what it is. And he's like, yo, my ways are not your ways.
Right.
So in due season, you will reap.
Right.
And other people are going to reap whatever they sow. So I'm going to lead you to the book of Obadiah to understand prophecy in Obadiah and relate that to Revelation and tie that together. You're going to have to read Amos and Isaiah and figure out, what does this have to do with that? Like a lot of these things that have to deal with race, ethnicity, you know, slavery, and uncovering lies. There's so many untruths. I mean, I'm not even gonna go into conspiracy theories on because that's a whole nother podcast. That's a whole nother because I'm not. Yeah,
we'll bring you back on for that one.
Please,
because
I gotta put
it
because if I tell you the one that I think is gonna be that's gonna have to be offline. We're gonna talk about that offline.
Okay.
Because I got one that's like, yeah, but I've had the floor long enough, so that's just kind of how I feel about that.
And I mean, you pretty much touched on it all. The one thing too that I was thinking about was like the lack of the visual representation of the Black skin. You know, so like even now when you have missionaries going out to these countries and they're, you know, spreading the gospel, you look at their skin tone, right? And their skin tone is more pale white, you know. So when these Black kids in Africa that have never heard, you know, the word of God, and now they're getting it from a white person who's bringing it. So automatically, oh, that's the right way to go. That's the, you know, that is, you know, and you know, because they are taking pictures with them too, you know, and a lot of the pictures, as you know, Pastor Jay was saying, you know, with the fans, a lot of the pictures that they're taking have a white face, you know. So I think that's a really key part of it all too, is just that lack of the visual representation of you know, what Christ actually looked like, what Jesus looked like, you know, just the people at that time.
The pictures are in the Vatican.
When our kids are watching, what's that, Prince of Egypt?
Right.
What are they seeing?
Right.
You know what I mean? They're not seeing necessarily all the time dark skin. When they put these other movies out, Noah's Ark, Russell Crowe.
Right. Like, Russell Crowe is Noah.
Right.
Out of all, like,
well, actually, to be fair, the description of Noah in the Apocrypha was that Noah actually, the book of Enoch. In the book of Enoch, the description of Noah was that he was white, actually more of an albino type, and his eyes were like, they had this quote unquote beautiful brightness about themselves. And so they thought Noah was like a devil. They were afraid of him because of his color. Now, how was they afraid of somebody white and thought he was a devil? Only because during that time, you had these fallen angels that looked like that. So when we talk about the Nephilim, right? The Nephilim fallen angels who were, mating with birds and beasts, and you had all kind of weird creatures and all this stuff flying around, and dinosaurs and pterodactyls and, half man, half horse, real weird stuff. Like if you allow your mind to actually believe that is real, right. Those are kind of the types of descriptions of it. But so to be fair, I will say Noah may have been the first white and the most important figure in the Bible that actually had a lack of melanin, but was actually albino.
So, yeah, I think, but you know what, Jason?
That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Well, I mean, but that's the thing too. Is just like, with that information, even things like the Book of Enoch and those stories that you said that sound mystical that are in the Bible. When we was in Sunday school, we don't really dissect those mystical things. And I don't think that our Sunday school teachers, I had some of the best Sunday school teachers, ever. I don't think it was because that it was ever taught to them, and the reality is to be 100% honest, some of that stuff that we were just talking about, I've never been to seminary. I learned that in college years, because honestly, when you go off to college, and that's why some people go to college and they come back a little confused, because it does expand your mind. I was studying a lot of history, so I got to read the whole aspect of everything. I had a lot of religious history, I had a lot of just world history. So it exposed you to stuff that,
What was your major?
My major was information systems, but when I went to grad school, I wanted to be a teacher and I wanted to teach English. I took a lot of my electives were mostly history. So I had a what do they call it? Endorsement for history, to teach history. Yeah. So, I mean, but that's the kind of stuff. I don't think it's because they didn't know. I mean, well, I do think so that they didn't know, but I think that's where we are now with the knowledge being more accessible for us. That's where we are, where we had to sometimes to get into those quote unquote mystical things and pull it off and give them truth about what this stuff is and what Jesus looked like. Yeah, in theory, it does not matter, what color he is, but representation does matter to a degree, because it's truth in that. And if you were sold a lie for so many years, that has turned people off from church, it is important for us to go back and teach what the real is, because it's the truth. You know what I'm saying? We can't teach anything else if we don't start there. So, I mean, I think that's just one aspect that's missing, is that, we don't hit on certain things. And I think it's just because it is some things that we were just never taught, but at the same time, it's tricky because we were just taught Jesus. That's what it is what matters. And you go on, you know what I'm saying? You either accept them or you don't. But it's a generation that says, yeah, no, I don't. Jesus is white and I'm good, so we got to be able to counter that with the truth, you know what I'm saying, in of what it is. So that's my 2 cents.
And a lot of we were taught, and not necessarily, them saying it, but it was more or less, don't question what I'm telling you, what I'm teaching you.
Bingo.
Hey, this is
because
what
I said so.
Like you said, exactly. And because a lot of more people nowadays, they consider themselves to be woke because they have dug a little bit, you know, they're still missing, you know, the grand scheme of things or whatever, the actual truth,
right?
You know, because they want to be so woke,
right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to go back to sleep.
That is a challenge too, because you know, if you think about it, you know, for the better part of probably, let's say 100 years, right? Pastors went unchallenged. They went unchallenged. Like whatever pastors say, like he's the one that hear from God, and he'll tell you, I'm the one that tell you what God said, right?
Yeah.
And so that's because that was not the information age, right? So now we're actually out of the information age into the experience age, which means that information is so readily available. Everybody wants experience and they want to feel a certain way. And so if your information ain't on point, you're never going to be heard. So pastors will be debunked so quickly. If you come up, like people will fact check you like really fast. It's almost like sometimes it's hard to even go into creating a space where you are building a ministry around this, because there'll be people, you're going to be dealing with the fact checkers, information overload. But for me, like, I don't really go out teaching this. Like, I don't know if it's that I don't feel the Lord has released me to do it in that way, but I also know it's a trick bag, because you can find yourself only in this space, but like, how are you really helping to free people and liberate people
with that information?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's great information to know, but like, people really want to grow. So sometimes you can use, like, information can be used like a gun.
Yeah.
So you taking information and use it like a gun, and you shooting off at the mouth, and you just trying to kill people. So I'm like, some types of information is like, it's good to know. It's good to discuss, but I don't know if it's always like, God literally has to grace a teacher to teach it.
Right.
I don't know if I'm graced to teach that.
Right.
I know a couple people who I've seen a couple that are graced to teach. There's a man by the name of Dante Forster. I told Tisa about him. He's got a book.
I love him. I listen to him
Dante,
often. Yeah.
Dante is graced to do it.
Yeah.
I'm way more of a tangent guy than Dante. I can't stay on that too long, because I'll be like, I'm okay, like, I'm saying the same thing over and over. I'm not finding any nuance in this, you know. So I think when it comes to people who are woke, it's like, what are you waking up to?
Right.
And then what's next? Like, because everything, like, all of life should be about, like, how am I going to prepare somebody else for what's next? You know, like, I have 2 kids, and so now, how do I help them? You know, I teach. You know, I teach in a extremely wealthy area out here in LA, and so, like, what are they going to see when they see me? You know, how are they going to respond when they see me? And then how do I respond in a place to where I'm not an entertainer?
Right.
You could get entertained, but this is not, my job is not to entertain you. My job is to educate you.
Right.
You know, so these discussions are wonderful, especially in these platforms, because we can, you know, like, discuss them. And one of you all it may be Pastor Roger, it may be Coach Mo, maybe Teach. One of y'all may be like, this is my purpose. Like, I got it. And then I'll find myself doing a deep dive into all y'all YouTube videos or y'all books or your podcast. Like, that's another thing I love about right now. Like, you couldn't have told me 10 years ago I would be sitting on a podcast with Tease.
Right.
You couldn't have told me, not that I wouldn't want to. I'd be like, man, what? That don't make sense.
Right.
But people are like, now, if it just wouldn't have made sense. It's like, oh, we cool. That's my G. Like, I see it. Okay, cool. But like, everybody genuinely has something to say and something to offer. And if the church misses that there are people sitting in your pews that got something to say, if you miss it, you might be missing one of the biggest opportunities, because you never know who that person is.
Yeah.
You know, I remember Teach being a strong alto.
Soprano.
Oh, soprano. Oh, who is that?
T.
T is that. T is alto. But I remember y'all in the choir. Right. Yeah. I remember that. But I didn't know your level of intellect. You know what I'm saying? Not that I was like, oh, she not smart, but you just don't be knowing people. You don't, it's like,
and I didn't talk like that. I wasn't really an extrovert person, you know, back then. Like I was more reserved as far as just being comfortable with talking, you know, back when we first met.
That was it. Really?
What?
Y'all.
That's the truth.
Man, this is breaking news.
Whatever.
It was you and Kaya and T. That's all I remember. And Kaya was the extrovert.
She still is. She still is. Well, we got just one more thing before we let y'all go. I know, Moses, did you have anything else before we just switch gears real quick?
Yeah, I had a question, but just a thought I had, and I know Teach, you touched on it earlier. Like I know for me, growing up in the church, you know, that was just a part of like my everyday life. Like I have to honestly say, if I didn't grow up in the church and I went to college, the college I went to, I'd probably be like Future or Nick Cannon out here. I'd probably have babies all over the world.
What school did you go to?
I went to Lewis University. Lewis University in Romeoville.
Yeah. My homie Lafayette went there. My homie Seth.
I know all of them.
Bruce.
Yep.
Marcus Morton. Yep.
So I know when I first got down there and just seeing all the freedom and just seeing like the stuff you can get into, I know for me, I'm thankful that I was grounded. I'm really thankful for that. But even with that said, there's two discussions that I refuse to discuss with anybody anymore. One is who's the GOAT, MJ or LeBron. I'm not doing that no more, ever. And the second one is religion. Because I've got into a whole bunch of discussions, especially when you're young, and then you got homies or friends who like, man, you going that white people religion. Man, that's slave on a religion. They just gave us that religion to shut us up. So, you know, when you try to enlighten people, it gets frustrating for you because you're like, you know what? I'm already grounded. I'm too far in, like T said, that I know what you're saying. You coming from a place or somewhere else, and it's probably not factual. Or for us, it's all about faith for us. That's what we believe.
Right.
Yeah.
So God bless you, and I hope you know your life is great. But it's for what I believe, and this is how I'm going to live my life. So my question for both of y'all, and I know a lot of my friends probably glad I'm gonna ask this question. So let's talk about pornography. Now, we know growing up when we was young and growing up in the church, you know, it was always told us, you know, don't do this, don't do that. You know, if you do this, you're going to hell. You know, if you do this, you drink this, you're going to go to hell. It's, you know, everything was extreme. But I think in the Black church growing up, they never really talked about sex. They never really talked about pornography. They never really talked about all the things that we saw and dealt with Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, until we got to church. You know what I'm saying? So from y'all perspective, and as men, married, not married, but as men, like what's with religion and pornography, like is the line, is there a line that's drawn? How thin is that line before it's quote unquote a sin, or the overall take that you guys have on it?
Best.
So when it comes to, it's two. So I'm real careful with language. Are you asking when it comes to salvation or when it comes to religion? There's two different things. So religion is one thing.
For our viewers, I'm going to say salvation.
Okay. So if we break down actually like what actually is sin, right? So we have to get to like, well, what is sin? Like, what is it? And so, like you said, we have these extremes. Like, if you do this, you're going to hell, right? And so the interesting thing is that the people who told us that we're going to hell have never been there, right? They've never been there. So they're going off of what they were taught. They've never been to heaven either, right? So I think it's really more so one of those ideas, like when you talk about pornography, what does it lead to, right? Where is it going to lead you down the road of? Is it going to take you to a place that will bring out your best? Or will this take you to a place where it can destroy your home, it can destroy your relationships, where it can be, you can lose everything. You know, there are people who've lost jobs over it. There are people who've lost money. There are people who have lost their marriages. So when it comes to, for me, is it a sin or not? I'm more concerned about, you can lose everything by going down this path, just like alcohol, just like drugs, just like any type of behavior that that's never going to lead to your spiritual growth or health, right? So in my eyes, do I see it as a sin? I do see it as a sin, but I see other things as sin as well. So I'm not going to put it on a different level, but I'm saying the level of consequence for that wage, right? So yes, we know the wages of sin is death, but there's also more consequences. There's a living death, right? That you pay for certain things, right? There's nothing worse than being tortured. So I think that we forget that sin doesn't just lead to like the actual, like we look at death as like, well, I did it and I didn't die. However, you did it and you're being tortured. You're being mentally tortured.
Right.
You did it and you think you got away with it, but in the back of your mind, like if I get caught, what's gonna happen? What could I stand to lose?
Yeah. Right.
And so we don't always have those conversations with men. We don't always have those conversations about sin. We look at it in this like black and white, you're going to heaven or hell. And it's like, neither one of y'all, nobody's been there yet until you've gone there and came back and said, this is why Jesus told me, this is why I went to hell and I came back. The only person who went to hell and came back is Jesus.
Right.
So we don't so this whole idea has to be more about, like this tortured life that a lot of people are living. This cry for help, this anguish. And also we have to see like, well, where did it come from? For some men, it's just like, I just do it to pass the time. I just do it because, I'm a guy, I'm a man, whatever the reason is there another trigger behind it? And who's open enough to talk about like what that other trigger is and getting help for that other trigger and being vulnerable enough to do it. I'm not saying that's easy. It's not easy being vulnerable. Like, especially men, like now more than ever, I do see more men being more vulnerable and being willing to talk about things, like even this type of platform. But it's in regard to sin, right? For the believer, and other people might be like, oh, for the believer, for the person who has accepted Jesus as Lord and Savior, right? Now, is it now about never sinning again, but does sin have control over your life?
Mm-hmm.
So what does grace actually do? And what does accepting forgiveness actually do? Right? So when we get into this position where we're trying to work, it's like we're not saved by our works.
Right.
We're saved by grace. So the sin issue that we have has to be covered by grace, because Jesus was like, man, y'all can't even follow this law.
Right.
y'all can't even do half of a law correctly.
Right.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna die. My blood will shed for everything that you will ever think about doing. If you accept my forgiveness, it's yours. If you accept my grace, the grace is here. Do you accept it, or do you keep going, oh, Jesus, please forgive me? When he's like, it'd be like if my kids have to ask me for something that I told them is yours and I say, take it. I get annoyed when my kids ask me for stuff when they can just go take. Don't come ask me, oh, can I go to the bathroom? We have bathrooms. You don't have to ask me. You just go.
Right.
Don't ask me.
Right.
Can I get some water? Can I get some juice? Can I get some bread? We bought it for you. Now, if you going overboard and eating candy, that's, but if you parent, like parents know whatever's in the house is for you. Now, don't go up in my room, in my closet, don't go up in my, it's certain boundaries in the house. This is your house. This is your home. You accept what's in your home, right? So last thing I would say is that this idea of, I believe it's in Romans, the 8th chapter, where Paul is talking about no longer being servants, but being sons. And so this idea of coming into sonship, and it's not just a masculine thing, but sonship includes daughters as well. It's just, that daughtership doesn't sound right. It don't roll off the tongue quite the same. But sonship is for everybody, right? So this idea that as many are called by the Spirit of God, they are the sons of God. So if you're being led by the Spirit of God, you are his sons and his daughters, right? Whereby we are no longer servants, but sons. So this idea of sin, once we're in the Spirit, we're no longer, that's why Paul wrote Romans. He's like, y'all in this sin and this law, like, yo, this thing called grace and sonship is the thing we're supposed to be walking in. And it's like, even like whatever the subject is, gambling, pornography, promiscuity, like a lot of the subjects that come in, like the real issue that people don't want to accept, that they really haven't accepted Jesus. So they want to do whatever they want to do and not really accept Jesus. They want to live under grace and they're not saved. Like they really haven't bought in. They're not really, they don't really believe. So they want to bring in other beliefs and not believe. And it's like, that's really not how this salvation thing really works. You can't bring in other beliefs, like just in case. Like, well, I read some books about Buddha, and I read some book, and it's like, no shade against that. If you want to be Buddhist, be Buddhist. You can't be Buddhist and saved. Mm-hmm. It's not possible. Right. It cancels itself out.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You can't be Kabbalah. You can't be into the Kabbalah and saved. Now you could study it and to understand what it is and be like, oh, some interesting principles. But at the core, what I believe Jesus is the Son of God. He died for my sins. I'm a part of the family of God. I'm a son. I want to understand what y'all doing, but my belief will never be tied up in that. right? So let's circle it all back. So any sin issue that we have, let's first ask ourselves, what do we believe? Are we believers, right? So if we're believers, what's the issue? Why do we keep going back to this thing? Is there a trigger? Lord, I need you to detach this trigger from me of why I keep going back. Is there somewhere I can get help for it? And not sitting here making an excuse for it. And there's going to be some that say, I'm saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost, and I don't believe it's a sin. And to that, I'm going to say, I'm going to throw my hands up.
Right.
Okay. Do you, bruh?
Right.
I ain't going to teach nobody that. It's going to be me.
Right.
Do you?
Where the mic at?
No, man.
No, I agree with that, Stan, 100%. That pornography is definitely a form of sin because of what it definitely leads to, and it's like people want to be able to watch porn and so forth like that, because a lot of times because they're in the comfort of their own home, no one's watching them, right? Mm-hmm. And they're like, hey, nobody's looking, I'm gonna do it. I can't go to jail for it necessarily. This is what a lot of people think and how they look at it. And this is based on just conversations that I've had with some of my guys or whatever. Man, I'm not stealing, so if I get called by the police, they can't take me to jail because I'm watching porn or whatever. Right. But if you're a Christian, God is always watching, right?
Right.
True.
So, and my response is just real simple. Yes, it's a sin.
You have a lot of my guys. They're gonna be like, oh man. They're gonna be like, oh man.
Well, just to close
out. But the last thing I'm gonna say
though. Go ahead.
It's not sin that takes you to hell.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the discussion about sinning and going to hell is different than have you accepted Jesus?
Right.
And then how are you growing in Jesus after you accept him?
Right.
So some of the conversations that we have with our guys is that the issue is y'all want to stay basic.
Right.
I tell them that like I'm gonna be 100. You trying to stay basic and do whatever you want to do, and you don't want to grow. It's almost like, if you a hooper and you still at the same level as you were as a freshman in high school, and then you think you're gonna play in college, like you're not that good because you didn't grow.
Yeah.
Not that you couldn't have been better. Sometimes you may not have the talent, but there's a growth that happens. Me being a pastor, this is my first year pastoring. I would pray in 10 years, I'm gonna look back and be like, ooh, I've definitely grown since then. I've been married 16 years. I've grown as a husband. There are things I can, my wife and I can have easier conversations about now. My kids my daughter's 13, my son will be 11. I'm not saying it gets easier. I'm saying there's growth that happens.
Right. Yeah.
So when we have a lot of the same conversations with people, it's because they refuse to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And I challenge you, Coach, to have more of a growth conversation with individuals. Then you're gonna start to what you trying to say, man. It's like, well, we keep talking about this. Why we keep if that's what you're doing, okay. But like, where's the growth? Like, where are we seeing the growth and where are we seeing your best? Are you at your best if you could tell me you at your best when you watching this or doing that? Cool.
Right.
Cool. You at your best? Yeah. Man, I'm at my best when
Yeah.
They would never say that. Man,
they'll never say, man, I do my best thinking when I'm watching this. They'll never say that.
No. That's just not even real.
They'll never say that.
Well, just to close out before we close out with you guys, Jason, you did mention basketball, and I know y'all are both sports cats. So we just had the week 1 NFL.
Yes.
First of all, I know let's just get this out the way because I know everybody on here ain't a Bears fan. So
you better believe
I know.
I'm a Bears fan.
Well, Ron's not a Bears fan?
Nope.
Bro, it ain't happening.
Well,
only blue and orange you will ever see me rooting for, rocking, or any of that is the University of Illinois fighting on Alabama. Yeah. That's it. Chicago Bears.
So who you cheer for then?
And I'm born and raised right here in the city. But man, please.
Who's your team?
That's one of those things like in the church where they force feed you all that. That's what my dad tried to force feed me to be a Bears fan, man. And I rejected it. I regurgitated it all. Like, Tampa Bay, baby.
Who's your team?
Tampa Bay.
Yes,
sir.
So
and not just a bandwagon jumper.
You a church house.
I can vouch for him. He been Tampa Bay for a long time.
Because I was going to ask. I needed to ask. Was this last year or
no? He been with them losers for a long time.
Oh, okay.
It just so happened we got blessed. Last year. Yeah. God saw fit. To send the goat our way.
So I just wanted to ask. I just wanted to clear the airway because I know Jason is in LA now, but I know that he's from Chicago. So I just wanted to get a little sports talk in and see how y'all felt about the first week of the NFL. What did y'all team? Well, I mean, we know how our team did, but what was y'all thoughts about the first week?
So this how I feel about the Bears. First of all, they came. So I've never seen a Bears team that unprepared to play football. They've never been that unprepared in a season opener. I've never seen that. Matthew Stafford is not that good. Let's just be real. We've seen a lot of Matthew Stafford in his whole career. We've seen him every year. He's not that good. He's not throwing to wide open guys like that. So number one, the coach is trash.
You hate
Nagy is, I don't know any Bears fan that thinks Nagy is a good coach. He's been exposed to what he is. He's the white guy that got a job that didn't deserve the job. He got caught he's basically with his proverbial pants down because he can't coach. He can't coach. He's in over his head. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but this ain't about being nice. He's not good. He has no game plan. The players don't believe in him. And they want Justin Fields to be the quarterback. They know Justin Fields is the best player on the team, and he's a rookie. How are you he's 22 years old and already the best player. And I never played football, but what I do know about football players is when they know somebody is better than the guy that's playing, that team will not play for that coach. And the culture is broken, it's bruised. I don't believe in the general manager or the coach. So it was highly embarrassing for them to open up this new stadium, which is 5 minutes from my house, free Justin Fields. This brand new stadium here, SoFi, for them to come out and do what they did was embarrassing. And I believe by week 3, he'll be the starter. But it's too late for Nagy because he's trash. He needs to go.
I got a question, though. Do you think that the offensive line that they have in place right now is going to be able to protect Justin Fields the entire season?
So this is how I really feel about it. I really thought about that. I honestly was just thinking about that. I think that the coach is the worst part of the offense. He's calling the plays. He's calling the schemes. If you notice, like everything they did, they ran no plays beyond 15 yards. Then their deepest play was 12 yards. And it had more to do with the coach's nervousness, right? So when you talk about like, well, can the line do? It's like, well, can we attempt something So the first play, here's what gives me faith in the line. The first play from scrimmage, David Montgomery busts a 44-yard run. The line opened up a hole, the floodgates open where Aaron Donald was. They sealed Aaron Donald, and this man busts a 44-yard run. And then what happened? They took Montgomery out the game. The next 10 plays, he only touched the ball one time.
Yeah.
He only touched the ball one time. So to me, that just shows me that the line needs a coach that believes in them. Mm. So the fact that we think the line is trash is because the coach has basically thrown the line under the bus. Mm. He's throwing everybody under the bus, including Mitch, like he fired his own. You remember last year he was calling the plays, and then he turned it over. He fired himself from being offensive coordinator, gave it to Bill Lazor, and when Bill Lazor took it, they won 6 in a row. And then he said, "Well, now I'm gonna take it back."
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
That sounds like a pastor that wants to be a minister of music. Come on, bro. You the head coach. You're not supposed to be calling the plays.
Right.
I can't get with it, man. The Bears should be like the Baltimore Ravens. Even though the Ravens lost on Monday night, when I see that team, I see John Harbaugh on the sidelines. I go, that's a team I can get behind that coach. Like, I never played football, but I feel like John Harbaugh will put me in the game and I could do something in the game because he would actually believe I could do it. And then Lamar Jackson, like, he's just a baller. Like he's a gritty baller. And I believe we got the same type of talent with Justin Fields, but we got a terrible coach and a terrible culture. Like, we should be like the Ravens.
Yeah.
That's what the Bears should be. We should be like the Ravens.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm a Bears fan all the way through. I just can't.
Let me tell you something about Jason. When this was years ago when he was here, I used to drive home. I used to drive to work. I used to work second shift. And I think it was I don't remember who used to be on ESPN at 2:00 around that time. Jason used to call in and complain. Yes, he used to call in and complain about the Bears and the Wolves every day.
Yep.
Every day. I'll message just like, Jason, I heard you this morning, like, or this afternoon.
I could have a show. I could do a show. Like, I mean, I'm passionate enough about it, man. Like, and they don't be ready when I call in, because I'll be like, look, I'm not just hey, put in a new guy to write. I'm not the typical Chicago sports fan. And, you know, like, I respect the game to the point where, like, I was never an athlete. Like, I played baseball, but, you know, so I'm not the guy that's like, oh, that's easy, you know, because some people get mad, like, even in the Jordan LeBron debates. Did you ever play basketball? I'm like, nah, but I've watched it. Like, you can't tell me LeBron is better at anything than Jordan. Like, you can't tell, like, what is he better at Jordan? Like, there's nothing that he's better than Jordan. Nothing.
Right.
Like, he's not a better passer. Oh, LeBron's the best passer. He's not. Like, stop lying. Like, you know what LeBron is? LeBron's just bigger than everybody. LeBron is Karl Malone size, an amazing basketball player. Like, I'm not gonna hate on the man, but he's just not Jordan. Like, he's just not.
Yeah.
And I know that's what Coach Mo. I know that's the line you fall on with LeBron.
I'm done. I'm done with it, bro. I'm done with it. You have no idea how much I've discussed that. So I'm done with it. Like, I'm done with it.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. What do you coach?
Freshman boys basketball at Fenwick High School.
Oh, okay. So Fenwick, that's Corey Maggette?
Yep.
Okay. Corey Maggette.
Well, we thank y'all for appreciate joining this conversation with us. I know that it'll be definitely useful. I know we'll get some feedback once we drop it tomorrow. But if y'all got any last words I want to say to the people, go ahead. I'm definitely gonna post your social media tags once we get the video out or anything. And I know Jason, he say he don't do music anymore, but he is a really great musician, y'all. So if you got Apple Music, if you're on Apple Music, check out some of his projects. He got some of my favorite gospel songs on there, so definitely check it out. But yeah, if y'all got anything y'all want to leave the people with, feel free.
Go ahead, Pastor Roger.
Well, first of all, I want to say that I do apologize that I didn't thank you guys up front from the beginning for even inviting me out to be a part of this podcast. Definitely been a blessing, definitely enlightening, and definitely, hopefully, Pastor Jay, I, connect with you at some point, man.
Yes, absolutely.
Hey, teach being that, that vine, and hey, we spread and we go from there. Coach Mo, I met you before, and always a pleasure to be around you, man.
Appreciate
for those
it.
that are listening, hey, we appreciate everything that these two are doing and that they continue to do, and we ask God to continue to bless them as they, prosper on this platform.
My sentiments exactly. I love new podcasts. I love just everyday people doing things that are new. I just want to encourage anybody that's watching this, step out and do something new. Step out and do something different. And don't even make it about succeeding or failing. Make it about the effort that you put in. So I'm excited about what God is doing. And so much blessings to each and every person on here. And I hope that something that we said today, like, sparks some thought, change, influence, inspiration, something that will get you through not just your week, not just your day, but will impact the rest of your life.
Well, definitely, again, we thank y'all, and we'll let you guys go, and we'll be in touch soon.
Peace and blessings.
Peace.
All right, Coach Mo, it's just us. That was a good conversation that we had with the guys. Always, we had these conversations amongst ourselves, and then, even with our other friends. And so I thought it was, it was good to hear just younger pastors, and their point of view from a religious standpoint on some stuff that we always talk about. So.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
I haven't seen or talked to Jason in a long time.
Yeah.
This was good. This was really good.
All right, well, let's go. We got a lot to talk about this week. We can do a little quick rundown. Did our little sports already, but what just happened this week? Well, yesterday, what was that? Versus. Did you watch Versus?
Was yesterday. I didn't watch it.
I watched.
It was Tuesday. It was Tuesday.
Yeah, it was Tuesday. Yeah. It was Tuesday. I watched some of it. I started out watching it, and then I had to stop for a second. I went back and I watched a lot of the highlights. But it was. I had already said before. Even before when I first said, Fat Joe, versus Ja Rule, and people was like, oh, people forget Ja Rule had hits. Like, I'm like, don't do that. Of them. I'm like, I know y'all on that 50 Cent bandwagon when he kind of, quote unquote destroyed his career or whatever. But no, y'all act like for a long stretch there, Ja Rule had hits, like, for real.
Ja Rule had hits, a lot of hits.
Yeah.
Lots of hits. So
do you agree with the statement that people say, like, if it wasn't no Ja Rule, it wouldn't be no Drake?
Well, no, because we can go back. I tell people this: Ja Rule's not the first singing rapper. Yeah. People forget. A group from Cleveland, Ohio, was singing, rapping. Boom. That's all they did. That's all they did. So
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't the first one. People think because he just took off and then all his hits he's singing on it, but everybody sings raps now.
Right.
Everybody does it. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Just
Right.
you'll probably never have Nas do it or Busta or some of the old heads, but
right.
all these rappers that's coming up now, they all sing and they
Right.
rap. So
right. Did you see Nelly doing that beeline trying to get to Ashanti?
that was the funniest thing I saw on Twitter last night. Well, Tuesday night. That was so funny.
Yeah.
She don't want no pods.
She don't want no pods and all. She made that clear because they was like, he want that old thing back. You know, he's single now. She's like, I ain't. Yeah. I'm good on that, bro. Yeah. That's what people don't understand. I've been telling we talk about this. When women are done, that's a wrap. Like, ain't nothing you can really do.
Somebody cue R. Kelly. When a woman fed up.
Oh yeah. Yeah. When women's fed up, that's a wrap. You can forget about it. I mean, you never know what happened in the future, but like she seemed like she was like, yeah, that's dead.
Hey, you know it's dead.
Wasn't, you know what? He was an F boy for the longest, so you know. Okay.
I'm sure.
No, you know.
Hey, I'm gonna say this though. You know, Fat Joe took some heat because you know he was calling the females the B word. Dusty. Listen, Fat Joe was probably drunk out his mind. Okay? And you know, he said what he said. I give him credit. I don't think he's a bad guy. He really did apologize, and I believe he was sincere. But Fat Joe just forgot what this era we living in now.
Era, yeah.
You got to read the room now. This is the era. You can't call women out of their name, be derogatory.
Nope. Yeah.
So he realizing this ain't back in the day, old school hip hop rap, when you could say whatever you want and it was whatever. But now, not anymore. It's not gonna be like that anymore.
No, you can't do that. He learned. I mean, he had a quick recover, but at least it's somebody like, he ain't got no new music coming out that I know of that, it shouldn't affect him in that way. But yeah, they'll cancel you. And I mean, when he said it, and I heard him calling them Dusty, I figured like it was gonna be some pushback. And I saw that Remy Ma and Lil Mo actually had some words back and forth.
They had some words.
Yeah. I mean, Lil Mo was like, who is you to tell me how to feel? So I feel on that. I feel on that. So that was cool. It was something else I know that has happened this past week that I was going to ask you about. It was a lot of goofy stuff. But
I'm sure.
well,
I'm sure it was
things. Your boy. So your boy got married?
Nah, listen. I saw the picture and the internet's lost their mind. But if you go on his Instagram page, he didn't get married. He explains what the picture was.
Well, you explain it to the people.
Well, he took the picture with two women, and for some reason it went viral, and it was just like Dr.Umar got his queens. And I get the picture because he was smiling hard, cheesing, but he made an Instagram post. He was at a wedding where somebody he knew married two women.
Okay.
That's what it was. So he was taking a picture with them. But the age we live in.
Yeah.
All you gotta do is send something out and you can create your own narrative about it. So you know what I mean?
So he's still looking for his queen.
He's still looking for his queen. And preferably straight hair, natural.
Right. He was like, what did he be saying? Your white women are not welcome.
Yeah. My brother.
Yeah. But you know what? I bet you, bro, he probably like that episode of Martin. You remember when that black guy was dating, remember they went skiing? And Pam had bought that dude, and then when it was all over, he got with the white girl.
The super pro black brother.
Yeah, I bet you he like that. I'm like,
hey, if he is, you know how funny that would be so funny to me
I would not be surprised. Because people that really that try so hard in that area, I'm like, yeah, I bet you any kind of money. He got
a snow bunny.
He got a
snow bunny.
A snow bunny or two. Yeah,
man,
I'm sure.
If he do, you talk about one of the greatest capers of all time, boy. Woo-wee.
Yeah. What else had happened too? I was going
to and we're gonna talk about your boy from California, the goofball, Larry Elders.
Man, listen.
Yeah. Go ahead and get fired up.
The lucky is late right now because he got to be the most. I hate my gums because they black. Like I hate black pepper. Like he is that dude. Like he just like I ain't never really. I can't say that maybe because I don't really pay attention to people like that. He hates himself. And I feel like he tries so hard to appease the white people only to still lose. This dude is saying stuff and asking stuff that white folks ain't even saying. Like you talking about giving reparations to slave owners. That was the dumbest thing I ever heard. Like Bill Cosby. That was the dumbest thing I ever heard in my life. Like seriously, like I mean, and he said it with a straight face. And he said it on the other Goofy show, And it's just like
Candace Owens.
Them kind of people, I just feel like they set us back. Like I know they can't set two people can't be responsible for setting a whole group of people back. It's just that type of thinking. It's somebody that's not black that's saying, see, I told y'all, like he agreed with us, and it's that stupid stuff that it just irritates me, man. It really does. Like it really does.
That type of thinking, and I told you this, that type of thinking makes the people, that group of white people, that privileged white people who look at Larry Elders and Candace Owens, Kanye, and then they say, well, look at them. They believe it too.
Mm-hmm.
They believe it too.
Right.
So, and what it does is when we try to do stuff together as a people, it gets shot down, or the powers that be don't take us seriously because they know they got the one token black guy or black girl who's, oh no, I believe in all you got to do is work hard every day, live your own life, and you don't need welfare. And you got that one that'll just speak for the entire black population.
Mm-hmm.
But that one person has never either lived in the hood,
right,
or never experienced trauma or pain like some of us have.
Right.
So they can't speak to what is needed in Black America.
Yeah.
But then you have some who come from the hood, who've made a little money and been successful, and then they forget that, hey, not everybody makes it out. We need resources.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's why guys like Larry Elder, him getting up there. Once I saw who he was with, I watched like 5 minutes and I turned it off.
Yeah.
Because it's disgusting.
It's disgusting. It's disgusting. It's embarrassing. And it's just like, he like that character on the Boondocks, it's just like, he that saying that kind of stuff, trying to appease to white people that ain't even thinking about you. Like it's a joke, like you're a running joke. It's just, he don't see it. He don't see it's like you are a running joke. And it's just like
running joke.
He's so disconnected from your own people. It's really sad, bro. To me, to see that type of black person is really sad. Like you ain't gotta wear red, black, and green every day. You ain't gotta sing, we shall overcome. So you ain't gotta do that. But it's just like you hate yourself that much. You know what I'm saying? Like where you gotta say the dumb. It's like I feel like you should say the dumbest things. That's so opposite of, like you said, of what we need, the resources and things that we need to upset black people, to appease to white people that really don't care nothing about you. Because at the end of the day, they still gonna call you a nigga. Do you understand that, right?
Of course.
I mean, but I don't think he understands that. You know what I'm saying? He don't understand that. And it just really takes me off because it's just like he's embarrassing. It's just, I mean, he don't embarrass me personally, but as a group of people. You know what I'm saying? It's just like we don't need that.
At the end of the day, he has to check the box that says Black American.
Yes.
Right?
And that's in your skin color, that's how come that's one thing we can't hide that. I mean, unless you're Michael Jackson, but
we can't have that. That's why sometimes, you know, and let me just say this. I don't have nothing against gays, lesbian, the trans people, but some of our Black gays, lesbian, trans people, some of them forget that y'all Black first before y'all chose the lifestyle. Right. So in this world, they only see the Black skin. Right. You don't have nothing on your body that says I'm gay. Right. You don't have a sign that says I'm gay. What they see is that skin. Right. So you're gonna always be who you are, your color. Right. That's the first thing they're gonna judge us on. Right. You know that. Right. Yep. Yep. No, I totally agree, bro. I totally agree, man. It's just like I just reading the comments, like I said, I even saw, you know, like white people saying this guy's a joke. Like, what is he even talking about? You know what I'm saying? But you know, but he's the message that'll be put out there, and they will want to make it seem like that's the voice of Black people, and it's not. It's the furthest thing. He's the furthest thing from Black people in general. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that he was a goofy of the week for me. I mean, goofy of the week. He definitely was a goofy of the week. Like that irritated my soul. It definitely irritated my soul. But just closing out, the only other thing that I know that I was going to mention, and I don't know if you got a chance to watch it, but I had watched over the weekend was Blood Brothers with it was a documentary on Netflix with it's about the friendship and relationship between Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali. Did you get a chance to watch that? I started it, but I didn't really get into it. Yeah. Well, I'll wait till I leave here. I'll wait till you get a chance to see the whole thing. It was definitely good. I like documentaries anyway, but I had learned something about Minister Farrakhan that I didn't know before. Now I know he was a musician. I didn't know that his name was Calypso. What was this? It's Calypso the Charmer. Oh wow. Yeah, and they showed a picture of him before, you know, he became a member of the nation. You got to see it, bro. I mean, you know. Calypso. Man, that's why I said, just look at that drink, Calypso drink. Yes, I can't even imagine him. I mean, and then that made me go down a rabbit hole of his music. And so he actually got like CDs out there or like albums from back in the day, but he had albums under that name. And then I actually just started seeing other videos of him playing the violin. He really good. He was like playing with like orchestras. Really? Yeah. I didn't know. Yeah, much of the movie is gonna be stuff. If you followed Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali, you're gonna know a lot of that stuff already. But it was still interesting to see their relationship. Like we knew they were cool, we knew they had a falling out, but just to see how the powers that be kind of just disrupted that. And what we don't hear a lot is just how after Malcolm X died, how Muhammad Ali, he did get back involved with Malcolm X family, and they kind of like they got close again. Okay, so good. And we don't hear that a lot. We don't know that. Hear that a lot at all. And that's why when Muhammad Ali passed away, one of Malcolm X's daughters actually spoke, and she said that she was like, after her dad passed, it may have been like a few years, he took it upon himself to make sure that he took care of them, and he knew that they knew like he it was like he wished he could have did it differently before he passed away, you know. Okay, I might have to check it out. It was good. Another angle was too, it was kind of sad, you know. People forget how outspoken Muhammad Ali was, because when we was growing up, he was on the tail end of declining his health. So he didn't speak a lot anymore. So you didn't really know his true thoughts about things. So it's always good to go back and see just how boisterous, just how
how
opinionated.
How opinionated he really was. And then it's just crazy how his voice was taken away, literally his voice was taken away. So people see, like his daughter was saying, people see Muhammad Ali now and it's just like, oh, he the champ. But back then they wasn't on him like that because he was safe, he was that bold. I ain't no cotton picking nigga, that was his, he was strong on that. He was strong on being bold and black. Yeah,
a lot of white people love them.
Oh yeah, it's like they love him now, but they hated him back then.
Yeah, they did. And a lot of white people were actually, a lot of white people were actually glad that he got that disease.
Yeah,
a lot of white people did not like Muhammad Ali. They did not like him. They didn't.
Yep. Yeah, they spoke about that in the movie. So, if y'all haven't check it out, Blood Brothers on Netflix. It's a good doc.
It's a good doc. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. So, but yeah, we had a lot of good conversation today.
Good conversation.
We'll be back next week with some more good topics. This probably was our longest episode, bro.
That's cool. I knew it was gonna be like that because we had good conversation. Sometimes it's like that. It's organic. You gotta just let it
go. Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? But before we leave, I gotta just leave this with the bullshit. So before we go, I just want to let you people out here that get in these relationships, y'all get in these relationships, and y'all don't even last 90 days, 120 days. Y'all posting how much y'all with Bay did this, did that. But then when y'all be going through it or y'all ain't together no more, y'all be sure to not post any more of that Bay stuff. My suggestion is keep the same energy and let us know that y'all done broke up. Please do. Right. So on that note, Latice, tell the people what they need to do.
Y'all need to like, y'all need to subscribe, y'all need to follow us on Apple, Spotify, what else we on? iHeart, Google, wherever you listen to your podcast, definitely follow us on there. If you prefer to watch, we on YouTube, so we need everybody to get those subscribers up. We got some things we're gonna do, but yeah, we just want everybody to continue to share, continue to like, continue to give us y'all feedback. We appreciate that. People do send us stuff in the box. People send us messages, and we appreciate that feedback. And we're gonna keep on getting better and better. And we're gonna hopefully, keep on talking about things that our generation and that's important to us. That's what some of that is about. It's about talking about a little bit of this, a little bit of that, just stuff that's important for us in this day. And we're gonna always come with the BS because that's what we do. We jokesters. We love to laugh, and we hope that when y'all listening to us, y'all can have a little laugh in your day, a little enjoyment, and just make your little week go a little bit better.
Absolutely.
Well, on that note, we out, and we'll see y'all next week.
Peace.
Yeah, peace.